What's better than buying a brand new Porsche? Buying a heavily depreciated one. So we have got our 2011 Porsche Cayenne S Hybrid. It's a bit of a mouthful, to be honest. And today we are going to review it for you guys. We're going to be looking at the engine and power of this mighty Porsche. We're going to be looking at the handling, the overall build quality, interior, as well as the exterior stylistic choices. And then at the end, whether or not we think that this is a good car. Now, right off the bat, I'm just going to get it out in the open. I do have quite a bias when it comes to Porsche. I absolutely love them, and I think they are one of the best manufacturers out there. So that being said, take what I say with a grain of salt, because I do look at these things through rose-colored glasses. But without any further ado, we'll jump straight into it and let you guys know exactly what we think about this Porsche Cayenne. Alright, so the Porsche Cayenne S engine and power. Without further ado, we'll see what it does. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Not bad, not bad. This car is a heavy car. It is a bit of a big Bertha. So it is quite surprising how well this picks up for an SUV, how big it actually is. Now, this does come with both a petrol engine as well as a hybrid engine. So you do have the two systems working together. They combined make 279 kilowatts or 345 horsepower for you Americans, which is quite a bit. Now, obviously by modern standards, it's not. You've got your crazy, in terms of Porsches, you've got your Porsche Cayenne GTSs, your turbos. You look at Mercedes, BMW, they make plenty of SUVs that have far too much power that will blow this thing out of the water. But for something that's 10 years old, it's actually not too bad. Now, it's not, like I said, the turbo or the GTS, which again has more power, but it's more than enough. It is plenty. And this one is rather unique when it comes to even the Porsche brand, because you have a supercharged V6 under the hood, a 3-litre V6, and like I mentioned before, you do have the added hybrid system, which does jump in a little bit, not as much as modern electric kind of petrol cars, but it does add a little bit of oomph to the start, as you could probably tell by Morgan's camera work and the gimbal getting launched back. It's not too bad. In terms of delivery, when you are, pardon me, already moving, kick down and where we go. It's not too bad, but you've got to remember that this isn't a sports car. It's a Porsche. Really, it's a Volkswagen Audi group product. It's a Volkswagen, it's an Audi SUV. It is not a Porsche as much as people like the badge. It is just an accumulation of those parts. A good point, in fact, is the engine itself. The 3-litre V6 is closely resembled to the same engine that you get in the Audi, I believe it's S4 and 5 of the similar generation. So there is quite a bit of parts sharing. Having said that, we are just in normal comfort mode. This car does come with different driving modes. We get 3, actually. I was about to say 2. 3 driving modes. You have currently what we're in now, which is just your normal, everyday comfort mode, I guess you call it. You have sport, and you also have e-power. Now, e-power basically is for economy. It'll pretty much just turn off the petrol engine, and you're only using your electric motors and battery pack. So it's not that sport focused, but the sport button is. So we saw before, probably like a 1 Mississippi delay, and then the car takes off and downshifts and goes. So we'll chuck it into sport, there we go. Immediately kick down 5 foot. So it is already looking to be in the best gear. Now we're just cruising in sport, and we'll go plant now. Much better, almost twice as quick as what it was outside of sport, just in comfort mode. The response is straight away. The power is pretty similar. It's not like you're getting a boost of power in the sport mode. It's really just the gear changing, how aggressive that is, what gear it holds you in, that kind of thing. Now, like my old Boxster 987, we do have paddles. These are, I don't know what Porsche was thinking, but for those of you who don't know, each paddle is identical. It's not like one left's down, right's up, like almost all cars. It's both. So you can push forward to go up a gear into 8th, or you can click back towards yourself and that'll click down the gears. It doesn't matter which one you press, that's just, yeah. So it's a little weird, I'm not gonna lie, but it is what it is. If you really want to shift gears manually, you can with those paddles. So that's a bit about the power. It's pretty good. For the weight of the vehicle and the way it delivers it, it's pretty good. You're not going to win any drag races, but if some P-platers beside you in an MX-5 or an 86 or even a Golf GTI you might be able to keep up with, you're probably going to beat them. It's when you start getting into those other cars, the Commodores, Falcons, you know, that kind of thing. Any car worked on heavily, you're gonna start struggling. But at the end of the day, this is a grocery getter. This is, you know, mum's SUV going to soccer practice effectively, but you're just going in style. All right, how does Big Bertha handle? Quite well, to be honest. I think part in that is these seats. Now these seats, they don't look that hugging. They actually really are laterally. So you can come around corners and you have no abdominal movement, which is really good. It means you can throw it through a corner. So we're just up here to just a normal T intersection. We just take it normally as if we take it at any other corner. Maybe a little power through. And not too terrible. There's a slight hint of body roll, but to be honest, for the weight of the vehicle, how big it is, as well as how tall it is sitting off the road, it's far less than you'd think. It's actually quite impressive. Like, it's definitely floaty. We are currently in the comfort suspension setting. So this is as soft and as malleable and I guess you can get. So we'll chuck it into sport. There we go. Now let's, so it's definitely stiffened the ride up. You can immediately notice there is not as much body roll anymore. You'll also get a lot more vibrations through the butt. Now these are quite plush, supple leather seats. So you can definitely tell that the dampening has changed on the car. We are getting more information through your butt. Steering wheel is about the same, but it's definitely far more planted. This is a far more planted car now. It'll be interesting to see when we come up to this chicane, what it feels like. So coming in very normally. Brake early so we can carry some speed through, and immediately not much body roll, if at all. Wow, okay. Wow, that's impressive. Just that one little touch in the setting, changing it to sport, this car becomes very nimble, nice and firm, but then keep dropping the kids off. We'll chuck it back into comfort, and now immediately It's soft. We can throw the car around a bit and you immediately get that lofty body roll, but it's not actually too bad. So that's actually pretty amazing. I didn't think it would have that much of an effect on how the car handles. So what we'll do actually, we'll just turn around and we'll just take that the other way and we'll see what it feels like with the car in comfort mode without it being all hard. And I get the best word I'd say is playful. Now obviously the engine was in comfort mode, so that side of things, the shifting is kind of just doing what it's doing, but the suspension, that's what we're looking at, and I am very, very impressed. I think even Morgan behind the cameras, can you notice it? Yeah. So yeah, we're comfort now. Now same corner, we're just going the other way. Yeah, you get that the top heavy kind of weight transfer, fall over, off camber, going round. Yet same again, the car's tilting over. But when we went through the first time having the suspension in the sports setting, there was none of that. The car was planted, it wasn't moving around. So honestly, the handling of this car, just by the press of a button, you've got nice comfort, modern, normal car. You go to the shops, you get your groceries, press a button, and honestly, you're probably in the equivalent of, say, a stock Golf GTI, something like that. Nice and compliant, not amazing, it's not coilovers, you're not gonna, absolutely throw it through a corner, because this is quite a heavy car, but that's pretty good. That's very good.
Now looking at the exterior of this Porsche S Hybrid, the front, it's got the signature Porsche look, right? So it looks incredible, like all Porsches do. I'm glad they still kept this design. The bulbous fenders, these kind of molds to the light, the headlight. It looks great, and yeah, it kind of from the front almost doesn't look like an SUV. It looks nice and slick, almost like a sports car, if you will. The headlights, they still look modern, even though this is like a near-on 10, 11-year-old car, something like that. It's got these nice little black vents there as well, which is a nice touch. And as you can probably tell, it's got the headlight washers that can pop out. That's a nice touch as well. Onto the wheels. I'm not sure, some people might not like it. I think it's a great look. I think they're 20-inch alloy wheels there. It's got that almost like a BBS style. And yeah, it really ties the car together. Looks incredible. Now onto kind of the mid of the car. There's really nothing special. There's not much you can do here, so it's really just kind of standard. They've got your nice chrome trims there. Some people like it, some people hate it. I actually think it looks alright on this car. Not too bad. You can probably tell as well, it's got huge brake calipers as well. We can see through the wheels, which looks incredible. Now the thing that I don't like about the car, the front looks incredible. The back, you can definitely tell its age, especially in the tail lights. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say. I think I'm not the biggest fan of the tail lights, and it's very kind of like a roundish shape, which I guess is the Porsche kind of theme. But I think for the back, I'm not really a fan of it. It's got this nice little kind of spoiler bit there. That looks nice. I do really dig that. It's got the dual tip exhaust as well. And really, I think the back again is a little standard, kind of basic, not too many features. But yeah, I just think the tail lights kind of ruins it for the rear. It's a very, very comfy car. These seats, these leather seats all around are just, they really hold you in place, and they're almost like a couch feel, but also it's got a little bit of firmness where it holds you, you're not fully sinking into the seat, which I actually personally don't like. So I think these are a great seat, good bolstering. In terms of the center console and everything, there's a lot of buttons, but I think they present quite well. It's obviously going to be quite confusing to get your head around. If you're owning this car, you'll soon figure that out anyway, so I don't think that's a major drama. The steering wheel, it's nice, actually kind of small. I'm not too sure on the diameter, but it's a very nice size. They're not too big, which you find a lot of the SUVs actually have a quite a big steering wheel. And yeah, like James said, you've got your paddle shifts there. They have a slight cheap feel to them, not the best, but I mean, it's not too bad. The gauges look incredible. It's very sporty, kind of, you know, your all different gauges there. Looks incredible. And if we look up here to the just above the center console here, you've got all your sunroof controls, you've got your lights, and that looks so futuristic. It actually looks quite cool. And it does it quite well, where I feel like it's a fine line between cheap, you know, almost futuristic feel that they're kind of going for, where this one's a really nice, almost sleek look there. I really dig it. Obviously the sunroof above it as well. It's not too big, but I mean, at least you got one. So another feature which I actually didn't realize until James just notified me, like every car, you've got your little sun visor here, you've got your mirror with the light that turns on, but if the sun is at an awkward angle where it's kind of getting you from both your your driver door window and the windscreen, you can flip that one there and you've just got a second visor. You can almost block off everything totally. That's a really, really cool idea. Something I feel like you definitely use, and yeah, nice little touch. So I've just hopped in now, and you can probably tell, I mean, I'm 6'2", so I'm not the smallest person in the world, and I've got plenty of leg room. And this is with the seat in James's driving position, and he's a very tall person that has the seat almost as far back as you can. So in terms of the room in the rear, it's huge. You have so much room. Definitely can fit a whole car of adults in there with no dramas. You've also got your aircon vents in the rear, which is nice. Jump to the rear and let's see how huge the boot is. Now coming back to the rear of the car with the outdated kind of look, what isn't outdated and is an awesome feature is this. No hands. It's great. The boot space is huge. I'm not too sure on the literage, but it is a huge, you can see we've got our camera equipment there, and you know, you could fit plenty of suitcases. You could fit a few people in there if you wanted to. One downside though is obviously there is no spare tire. You've got the whole hybrid battery kind of system in there that takes up all the room, but you do have tire repair little kit there. So if you're stuck, you can repair the tire if there is a puncture, which is nice and handy. But yeah, heaps of room in the back, and that's such a cool feature.
So, Morgan, the Porsche Cayenne, what do you think?
I'll be honest, going into it, wasn't too sure on how I'd feel. I was definitely amazed. It was definitely
Morgan's always made fun of me being a Porsche person, always calling them Volkswagens.
It's opened my eyes a bit. And I think as well, like, I don't think the Cayenne's, you know, full hectic Porsche, you know, great, but I think it's kind of opened my eyes, and it's got that kind of Porsche, like, something about it, I think, is, yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah, you'd know more about it than me, but like, yeah.
It's hard to, like, define, but if I had to try and explain it, the Cayenne is like 80% there when it comes to a Porsche being a Porsche. Now, no one will understand what I'm talking about unless you've owned a Porsche. But it's when you get to the two-seater, you know, proper handling where they're going, we're going to make an awesome handling car. And obviously I've only been at the Boxster level. There's tiers to this. But the Cayenne definitely, it has, I don't know what it is, but it has that kind of feeling of, this is not just some SUV. For me, I mean, I knew what it was like, because they're good. I love them. The only downside is, yeah, they can be quite expensive. But pros and cons. The power. I think for a car that weighs that much, to be able to get off the line and boogie, amazing. You then pair that with the fact that it's also a hybrid, so when you're not wanting to be a bit silly, the fuel economy is ridiculous. Like you can easily get multiple hundreds of Ks. I think it was like 900 Ks. The previous owner was saying that he averaged on a tank because of that hybrid system. And then, yeah, being able to absolutely launch it and flog the crap out of it. Also, as well, the noise. I didn't touch too much in the video, but new cars don't sound like that.
No.
And the car is supercharged, so it does muffle that V6 a little bit, but ever so slightly. There was that Porsche sound, just ever so slightly. Now, it wasn't the boxer rumble that you get with any of your 911s, Caymans, that kind of thing, but there was that little bit of like, oh, okay. Morgan, pro for you.
My pro was definitely just how comfortable it is, the luxuriousness to it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I think the price of the car, I was not expecting how nice it is. Really, the only thing that's letting it down compared to, say, like I've been another, 6-figure SUV, like on the high end kind of stuff like that. It's really on par with them, and the only thing that I think is letting it down is really just the technology.
Screens.
The screen, Apple CarPlay, that kind of stuff, which, I mean, for obviously an over 10-year-old car, didn't have it back then, but I think, it's very comfy.
Yeah. So we'll get into, one thing I will add is you can do modifications to the car that will bring it up to par with those high-end SUVs. But some of the cons, now it's not without flaws, there are a few things I don't like about the car. The parking brake is probably my biggest gripe. Almost all cars that have an electronic parking brake, if the parking brake is engaged, you're in drive and you go to take off, it just disengages the parking brake. Not so with this Porsche. The amount of times I've gone to leave my house going, oh, yep, sweet, in reverse, in drive, away we go, conk. The hell's going on? Parking brakes on. It's honestly could probably be a software thing that you could probably ask the dealer to code out. I don't know, maybe not. But that, every time you get in the car, you're going, oh, it's nice, you're in the seat, the aircon's on, go to take off, and it's like you've tied yourself to a wall. It just doesn't let you go. So that's probably my biggest gripe with the car.
I think that's something small, but something that's definitely practical and that you'd notice.
Once you're in the routine, if you own the car, you'd know, like, oh yeah, turn in, like get in, turn the car on, put your seatbelt on, parking brake, shift in, ready to go. Like you'd get in the habit of doing it. But for someone just getting in the car and going, not the case. And they have changed it because I have been in newer Cayennes and that is exactly the case. Is if your parking brake's on, you try to drive off, it'll disengage the parking brake. It's not going to have your engine trying to fight with your brakes. So that's the biggest gripe I have with the Cayenne. Morgan?
I think mine, I touched on a little bit in the video. The rear is just ugly. Or not. It's not the worst thing, but I think it's definitely, they could have, I don't know.
I think the one thing is if you look at the older Cayennes, it's like the one thing that they kept. Yeah. Everything else in the car.
Yeah, the front end is really like almost similar to the new ones. Yeah. Because they stood the test of time. They look really good at the front.
They nailed it. Yeah.
They just really didn't carry that through to the tail lights and
I think. You can watch documentaries that go into the designing of the Cayenne and how they're trying to make it resemble a 911 but in an SUV. And you can kind of see that, but I think it does come with its problems. If you look at the rear of a 911, especially the ones of this generation, your 997s and 997.2s, it is quite a round back. But because it's such a low car and there's only 2 doors, you can have that nice sloped kind of roof. Whereas the Cayenne, again, was also made with 7 seats in mind. So that roof is pretty straight, which means to achieve a curved rear is pretty hard. So yeah, it's a bit fugly. I'm not ashamed to say that a Porsche is ugly, but And honestly, of that generation as well, if you look at the rear of the Panamera, it's bad. I'll get Morgan to throw a photo up. But in that era, the rear ends, especially the Cayenne and the Panameras, it was not good. The Caymans and the Boxers and the 911s, they look good enough. But I think the problem was they were trying to grab that design language and just go, SUV. And then that's kind of what it turned out like. We will touch on the modifications. Now, this is not like the Skyline or the 350Z or any other tuner, I guess, cars that we've had before. Modifications, they are there. You'd actually be quite surprised to find how many people actually modify their Cayennes. Is
it more, though, of a different type of modifications?
Well, no, all right? Because, so for example, you've got a 350Z, right? Pretty much the modifications are performance orientated. Okay. Now with Cayennes, you definitely get that because it's obviously a supercharged V6. You can put pulleys on it, make more power, that kind of thing. Exhausts are a thing with Cayennes. You got your GTSs and your turbos, more performance varianted kind of cars. But you also have the off-roading community. And they also modify Cayennes. There are quite a few rock crawlers, off-roaders, that kind of thing, where you can get kits to jack your Cayenne up, fit mud tires. And really, it's the best of both worlds because you can get ground clearance in it and you're in crazy comfort, but then you have a near-on 350 horsepower, Cayenne that can do a lot of shit. So it's, Dolphin. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And depending on what you're after, you can go that route. Now, also another thing that the Cayenne does really well, and I think Porsche does really well, again, it's quite obvious that I love Porsche, is they actually have a program within the dealership that can actually come in and retroactively update the cars to modern tech. So, for example, that radio doesn't have Apple CarPlay and all the niceties of the new models and 911s and everything. But what you can do is you can go into your Porsche dealer and say, I'd like the new radio, please. And they have, they've worked out and built it in so you can have the modern amenities. They even go back into I think it's the 70s 911s. You can get the modern touchscreen head units and they're all perfectly fit nicely into your car. So that is an option. You can go aftermarket. There's plenty of Apple CarPlay kind of units and fascia plates and everything to make it all work. So that's the other thing. You can go that way. There's lots of stuff like, what do you call it? The courtesy lights. When you open your door, the Porsche logo comes out. All those little kind of modern tech features. So it depends really on what you want out of the car. It's not like, say, like your Navara or my 180, where it's, or your S15. If you buy an S15, you're not making it an off-roader. If you buy a Navara, you're not making it a performance car. But the Cayenne kind of just sits weirdly in the middle of all these things where you can go off-roading if you want to take it that way. You can go performance if you want to take it that way, or you can try and make it a nice modern SUV. So that is probably one point. The only downside to that is, I think probably the biggest downside of the entire car, price.
Yeah.
If you're going to modify it or do any work on it, performance side of things, you're paying Porsche tax. Off-roading side of things, you're paying Porsche tax. How many people are in the market for an off-road Cayenne? Not as many as the amount of people that are in an off-road market for a Navara. Same goes with the performance. The technology side of things, if you're doing that Porsche dealer head unit, it is cool, but Porsche know how to charge for those things. So that's probably the downside. It's not as accessible as, other cars, but that's the price you get, or the price you pay when you're getting a car that really can go any way you want to go. So I think that's probably a good place to end it. But before we go, if you had to rank it out of all the cars,
the thing is, I feel like it's hard because
it does everything.
It does everything, but then it's like, are we ranking it on what, say, I would own, or what is the best, ultimate car, or?
I don't know. Okay, so would you recommend someone getting a Cayenne?
I think definitely. Yeah, I'd definitely recommend it. Whether I'd probably buy it myself, I'm not too sure. I'm not really in the market for something like that, but I think, if I had a friend that's looking for something in that market, I think I'd definitely.
Would you have thought differently before we owned this? So if your friend came up, she was like, "Oh, I've been looking at these Cayennes."
I probably wouldn't agree as much. I think you know, I'd be like, oh, maybe look at other options, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's something. I think since I'm in it, I can definitely, you know, now I can see it and see the appeal and go, yeah, actually recommend it and go, yes, this is a great car.
I would recommend it, but I would let them know. Like all cars, things will go wrong. So just budget to pay that little bit more, because unfortunately it is a Porsche. So whether you go to the dealer or an independent, you are going to be paying more than if it was a Toyota Hilux or a Toyota 86. Like you're going to be paying more. And that's probably the biggest downside with the car, is you're going to be paying more. I would say of all the cars, I think it would be number one for me. But it's a bit unfair because the car is worth almost triple what all of the cars we've reviewed.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, we've got a limited Lambo series where we flip cars.
Yes.
And we've gone through many cars, and obviously we're up to the point of our Cayenne, which is a lot more expensive than pretty much every other car we've had.
Yes, everything.
Probably twice as expensive as the last.
Scott, yep,
next
definitely.
Closest thing, so.
Golf, definitely. Yeah. So that is where we put it. What do you think of the Cayenne? I know a lot of people aren't a fan of it because SUVs are everywhere, and it seems like every manufacturer has jumped on it. I think Ferrari is coming out with a new SUV. Well, it's not that they ever had one, but an SUV next year, which, God, Enzo, it would be rolling in his grave. Sure. But anyway, so let us know down below, what do you think of the Cayenne? If you've been keeping up to date with our Lemon to Lambo series, as Morgan was saying before, we will be putting the Cayenne through the auctions. We did some more diagnosis, and yeah, unfortunately it looks like it's a vacuum pump, and yeah, there's none in the dealers, second-hand parts places around where we are. So it would have to be one that we bought off the internet, which would completely blow our budget. So we are punting that one through the auction. As you can see by this review, the car drives fine. It's just a pesky little error light and a radio. So thanks heaps for watching. By the time this video comes out, it'll be Christmas on Sunday.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas from all of us. Stay safe. Eat as much as you can. And we'll be starting off the new year with hopefully a decent amount of budget. But the first episode, I think, will be the Cayenne selling. Yeah. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like and comment below, and we'll see you next year in 2023. Yeah, with however much money the Cayenne gives us, pretty much. See ya.